Hello everyone. Since my last broadcast, Be Prepared Part 2, I have left the bunker, at least temporarily. Today is Monday, September 28, and this is Be Prepared Part 3, which addresses the structural racism in American society. Structural racism, or your formulation of choice, became impossible to ignore with the deaths of George Floyd in Minneapolis and Breonna Taylor in Louisville. But it has been with us for at least 200 years. It has caused convulsions in this country, most notably the Civil War, and convulsions are flaring again. I have written this to see what I say and to figure out what I think. By the way, I'm trying to keep it to about 5 minutes, so you will listen all the way through, I hope. Let me start with Newton's first law of motion. It basically says that a body remains at rest or continues to move at a constant velocity unless acted upon by a force. Analogously, so it is with our individual and collective bodies of thought. MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, offers an example of a social analog to Newton's law. MAD was founded by a mother whose 13-year-old daughter was killed by a drunk driver. It became a national organization with a mission to end drunk driving. Everyone knew that drunk driving was a problem, but nothing was done until this one person called attention to the anguish and the true nature of the problem. MAD became a force. It was instrumental in bringing about changes to state and national laws. More importantly, I think, individual people became truly aware of the problem. Drunk driving became viewed in a highly negative light, and people as individuals changed their behavior. A similar social force is emerging as a result of the disproportionate killing of black Americans, especially unarmed ones, by police. This force is immediately evident in the protests and demonstrations that have taken place. The New York Times reported that demonstrations took place in 2,000 cities across all 50 states. We, and by we, I mean white people, we can see clearly the truth of systemic racism in this country. So that is the first step to the recognition and the acceptance that we have a serious problem and that we need to address it. Clearly, we face a deep-rooted, complex problem that will take time to resolve. And it's not the point here to provide a deep analysis or propose any detailed policies. But I will provide one quote from Dr. Gerald Jaynes. He's a black professor of economics and African American studies at Yale University. He is a man who has lived the problem and has studied it. He says, policing, prosecution, and incarceration are the social policies Americans use by default to solve the complex problems stemming from poverty, caused by below living wages and inadequate education, healthcare, and housing for a broad swath of our population. My point here is to say that the foundation of any solution requires us to apply a force of clear thinking to what I refer to as our collective and individual bodies of thought. Where do we start? How should we proceed? It can be helpful to go back in time to get a proper perspective. It's fitting to seek some guidance from Roger Bacon, a medieval philosopher and Franciscan friar. We are celebrating his 800th birthday this year. I bet you all knew that, all right. Richard Gunderman, a professor at Indiana University, describes Bacon as expert on Aristotle, teacher of mathematics and astronomy, music, optics, and theology. He became, known as Dr. Mirabilis, wonderful teacher. Gunderman says Bacon believed that improvement of human life, both personally and socially, depends upon the eradication of error, and that all persons have both the capacity and the responsibility to think for themselves and keep their community on track. Even back when Bacon was aware that too many people are creatures of habit and simply accept what they have been told repeatedly, to counteract this, Bacon believed that we should put our own ideas and assumptions on trial. That's not so easy, since we talk with the same people, live in the same neighborhood, go to the same church, and watch the same TV channels regularly. Furthermore, there is a human tendency that once we have made up our minds about something, it becomes very difficult to change. So this is the hard part, and the be prepared part, in seeking solutions to such a long-standing complex problem. Each of us should be prepared to put our ideas on trial. We have to take the time, put in the hard work to expand our perspective so that we can honestly and truthfully examine our own thinking. We have to seek the truth. The goal is justice and fairness for all Americans. And then each one of us should take the actions that we can to put this nation on track to fulfill the promise of this country as put forth in the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.